What's good, good people? Now, what I'm about to say might offend some of you guys if you guys are extreme Dana White diehards, the absolute Dana White fans. Listen, but if you really think about it, and if you're not being all up in your pants and you're actually being critical about it, you will agree with me. Dana White is not an MMA fan. Dana White is a businessman who 25 years ago saw an opportunity, saw a lucrative business opportunity, got a bunch of his rich friends from college, and they funded him with a lot of money, and they bought the UFC, well, the three letters of the UFC, and they made it work. He was obsessed with being right. He was obsessed with turning a dying entity into a lucrative sport. And that's what Dana White did. And kudos to Dana White, because millions of fans around the world loved the UFC because of the vision he had. But do not get it wrong. Dana White does not have the same passion for the sport of mixed martial arts as Vince McMahon has for the sport of wrestling. When Dana White wanted to get onto a network and Vince McMahon had the opportunity to let him in or block him because wrestling was so big back then, Vince McMahon said, "Nah, buddy. Even if we're in different sports, WWE wrestling comes first." That was the drive and absolute love and passion that Vince McMahon had for the sport. Not just his company, but for the sport. I say the sport because he even tried to crush his competition, which is WCW. He tried to crush a different sport in the UFC. He tried to make wrestling the number one thing we grew up watching. Now, I bring that as a premise because Dana White is in business with boxing. Dana White is promoting boxing. The president of the biggest MMA organization is promoting a boxing match between the two biggest names in boxing. How does that make sense? Vince McMahon would never promote Conor McGregor versus Khabib over, I don't know, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. Vince McMahon would try to make The Rock versus Austin bigger than Khabib versus McGregor. But no, Dana White is out here promoting, mind you, promoting a boxing match. I do not know why. Maybe the Saudis have offered to pay for the Jones versus Aspinall fight. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's because they have this new entity that they're building with the Saudis, the TKO. That's another thing. The president and CEO of the UFC is starting a different entity that will be focused on a different sport. He'll be focusing on boxing. Listen, Dana White is no different to billionaire owners who own a bunch of sports. Well, a bunch of sport teams rather. They own teams in the NFL, teams in the NBA, teams in European football, and they just want to make money from it. They don't have passion for this. They see an investment that they can put their money in that will generate a profit for them. That is what Dana White is. Forget it. Dana White is not a fan of mixed martial arts. When interviewers ask him after a fight, "What did you think about this fight?" "Oh, that kid is really good. He can grapple, he can punch. Yeah, he's really good." Dana White doesn't know the intricacies of MMA. He knows what's a good fight, which is a knockout. He knows that a knockout means more money. That's what he knows. He knows big names mean I can go sell the UFC to ESPN. I can go sell it to Netflix. I can go sell it to all these TV people fighting for deals. If Dana White was a fan of mixed martial arts, he would be seated in his office right now trying to make the biggest MMA fight happen. Tom Aspinall versus Jones would be announced the same day that we get in Canelo versus Crawford. That's what would have happened. Do you know how much Dana White is not a fan of mixed martial arts, and he's a fan of himself and making money for himself? When Francis Ngannou left the UFC, he announced Jones versus Cyril Gane or Jones versus Stipe, whichever one, just close, very close to Ngannou versus Fury's fight. I don't know if Ngannou was fighting, I don't know, whichever boxing match that Ngannou had, I can't remember. But Dana had a response to that. He had a card, a crazy card. Oh, it was UFC 300, my bad. I think so. I can't remember. I'm not going to go up Google and search this, but you guys get the gist. Dana White had a rebuttal for Francis Ngannou. But since Francis Ngannou is no longer there and there's no one else he hates, he's like, oh, well, the UFC can just keep generating money because we have guaranteed money from ESPN. ESPN is paying us this millions, whether we put on bangers, whether the fans love the bangers, or whether that doesn't happen. We're still getting money from ESPN. Yes, we got a couple of good fights. We've got Ilya versus Charles coming up. We've got Islam moving up and fighting JDM. That's good. We've got Khamzat versus DDP. Wow, great fight. But how did Dana White announce that? On Instagram Live. What is the promotion we're going to get for those fights? A press conference 2 weeks before the fight. A week of embedded videos. We get that UFC countdown. We get Nina Drama out here interviewing fighters and trying to be sexual. Where is the promotion? Where is, hey guys, are you guys done asking questions? Oh yeah, I got one more thing left. Show them the trailer. Hey, I smashed this brother. Show me a location. Hey, who the fuck are you? Yeah, we gonna get you. Khabib versus Conor McGregor, September. Yeah. What? Crowd goes crazy. Nate Diaz stands up. He moves out. Where is that level of promotion? Where is Conor McGregor is it Ireland? Yes, in Ireland, putting his feet on his table. Aldo does the same thing. Conor McGregor takes the belt. He lifts it. Hey. Where's Conor McGregor? Okay, I guess the more I think about this, it seems like they're mainly doing this with Conor McGregor, but still, we don't get these intricate promotions. The UFC is making a lot of money. Why don't we get the same level of promotions that boxing is putting on for duds of fights? I mean, Haney's fight was boring. Ryan Garcia's fight was boring, but they marketed that Times Square thing like it's the next big thing. And trust me, Canelo versus Crawford is going to get way crazier marketing than if we eventually get Jones versus Aspinall. Jones versus Aspinall, unless the Saudis are involved, will get the standard UFC marketing, the standard UFC promotion. You are a UFC fan, appreciate what you have. You're getting an embedded for the whole week. You got to appreciate that. You're getting a UFC countdown. You got to appreciate that. You're getting UFC press conferences where the interviewers ask the same question. How does it feel to be in Chicago? How does it feel to be in Ohio? How does it feel to be in London? How does it feel to be in Australia? How does it feel to be in New Zealand? What do you think this win will mean for your career? What will this win mean for your legacy? The standard UFC questions, we're going to get that. And then we're going to get the few one-on-one interviews where they ask the fighters, you get a DC interview, you get the usual UFC countdown with the weigh-in show. That's the standard package you're getting as a UFC fan. Anything else, forget about it, buddy. Dana White needs to admit that he is tired.